This is quite possibly the craziest statement I have ever seen come out from Square Enix in all my years of being a fan there. I love Hamaguchi. I love that he's just giving us a peek behind the curtain. I'm not going to waste time. We're going to get right into this. So, he recently went out there and said that they have been heavily mulling over the possibility of, DLC for the game, possibly even having enough content for a full game, a full sequel to Final Fantasy VII Remake. One of the things I've speculated on what the DLC could be, of course, Dirge of Cerberus and Advent Children, fixing those things, making those large DLCs. You can make, there have been games classically that have had very large DLC companions that come with a finished game. They wanted to do DLC for Rebirth, if you all remember, but they decided not to do that and to just focus on getting the third game done. The ideas whatever ideas they had internally for the Rebirth DLC, rolling that into whatever DLC they would want to do for the final game would be amazing. I think you could do a Dirge of Cerberus, you could do an Advent Children, but that's not what this is about. The DLC stuff, we've talked about it ad nauseum. For years, there was a idea for a sequel to Final Fantasy VII. This kind of fictitious fan idea that was stemming from things that people there at the company had said and the open-ended nature of Final Fantasy VII. What if we get DLC and a sequel game? What if we get DLC to wrap up the characters, or, Dirge of Cerberus is kind of a character wrap up, Advent Children is kind of a wrap up, and Sephiroth's like, I will never be a memory. Even Advent Children is open-ended. A sequel to Final Fantasy VII to finally deal with Sephiroth. And it wouldn't come off as cheap. It wouldn't come off as a cheap money grab, because even in Advent Children, it's like, Sephiroth's still a problem. We healed Geostigma. We did all this other stuff. Sephiroth's still a problem. He's still in the live stream. So, whatever they're planning at Square Enix, Hamaguchi is giving us a peek behind the curtain. There is smoke to that fire. They wouldn't be telling fans otherwise. I really like how he's open with fans about, and open with us about the communication, what's going on. Now, what do we know? We know the third game is going to be massive. The second game, Rebirth, was massive. The third game, the landmass you're going to cover and everything you're going to go back to Midgar. It's going to be at least twice as big as Rebirth. The third game, whatever it's going to be called, is going to be twice as big as Rebirth. Going back to Midgar, Wutai is going to be massive. Going to the Northern Crater area, going to Mediel, going to these other places. There's going to be other places in the ocean. The ocean itself, traversing the ocean, was wild. Of course, a lot of it was blocked off, but now you're going to have the high wind. You're going to be able to go all over the world. That's going to look absolutely wild. They're not going to blow that on just one last game. The reason I think there's possibly going to be DLC and a sequel game, you've built the world. And let's look at it from a business perspective too. Square Enix, they need to keep making hits. One of the things he said, if the third game does well, the third game's going to do well. The third game will do well. There's some of us out there that are going to buy a couple of copies of it. Probably. I think they'll put out a 3-pack with all 3 games. They're going to do some marketing stuff. We'll cover that later. But they've built this whole world. They want to get as much use out of it as they can. If they sculpt and build the entire world of Gaia, ocean floor, create the whole world, which is what I kind of think they're doing, I think it's going to be crazy to think they won't do DLC or a sequel game. The development time to do a sequel to Final Fantasy VII Remake Saga with the world completely built, you're basically just adding scenario, going in and updating little bits here and there of your backgrounds and your world, based on whatever happens. They're going to use those assets. Not only they're going to use the assets, they're going to find a way to pull that into the main story. I think they've had an idea. And I always talk about the stack of notes, right? The stack of notes at Square Enix. I always talk about that when we're talking about what Remake is and everything. You think they don't have ideas for how they were going to deal with Sephiroth, like how to finally take care of Genova and Sephiroth and a happy ending? You think they never thought about how they were going to do that? Advent Children felt like they had ideas to continue forward. Like, the ending of Advent Children is kind of weird because it feels like, not the ending in the church, but the ending battle with Sephiroth. It feels like, okay, this is a prelude for the final battle. Like, it felt like the part of a story where you start putting clues together as to, okay, this is the thing with him now. He can appear, reappear, disappear, whatever. Kind of like he's doing currently in the Remake Saga. Like, that's kind of like what he did to Kadaj. It's kind of like what Kadaj was, one of the black-robed guys. He just, and just gone, So, it feels like they had a plan to move forward. I said that a lot after watching Advent Children. I was like, I feel like there's going to be another movie. Or I feel like there's going to be another game after I watched Advent Children. Not only did I feel like there was going to be one, I felt like there needed to be one. Like, that was their intent. It felt like that was their intent. Now, we could be getting that. The DLC is exciting, but I think the obvious DLCs, and they might do something completely different, which would be fine. I think the obvious DLCs are Dirge of Cerberus, Advent Children, boom, sequel game. I don't think they want to make Final Fantasy VII movies anymore like they did with Advent Children. I think that was an experiment, and I don't think they want to do that anymore. I think they want to give us a gaming experience, and I think what better way to do that than to give us the sequel game. It could be a long game. You've got the world built, you've got the assets built, and it wouldn't take that long to develop. It maybe a couple of years. Maybe they go ahead and start working on it. They're cranking out DLCs. They start working on this. But I will say, before they do that, they need to get the other projects they have on the fire out the door. I'm not a Kingdom Hearts fan, but for all of you Kingdom Hearts fans, they need to get Kingdom Hearts 4 out the door. That's another hit in their belt. They need to do that. They need to get working on the next Final Fantasy. They need to do... There's several things they need to do. But this is exciting. This is really exciting because he wouldn't have said that. He's not the type of dude that's going to come out and just tell you some lies or tell you what you want to hear. He's going to come out, he's going to be honest, but he's also going to give you a peek behind the curtain, because I think he and the powers that be at Square Enix realize they need hits, and they need to keep building goodwill with the fan base, because they've kind of been split on Final Fantasy VII Remake. The fan base has. So he's out here doing like fan triage, basically. He's out here, he's doing the convention circuits, he's flying around the world, he's going all these different places, he's talking to fans, he's talking to news outlets. Him saying this means there are serious internal discussions going on. He probably just left one. It's like, okay, here's what the game's looking like. We're progressing well. Are we going to do DLC? Do we finally do the sequel story? I think it's a slam dunk. I think they've got an idea. I think they've had an idea. The stack of notes on the developer's desk, right? 20 plus years of developer's notes on that desk. I think we're gonna get it. I think we're finally gonna get the end of the story. I was hoping that Remake Saga would wrap the story, but if they're gonna do DLC, then they're not gonna wrap the story. You've got a lot. You'll have a lot of unturned stones and a lot of different stuff that you could do. I think I'll do a video later this week or maybe next week about some sequel ideas, villains and stuff like that they could do. But anyway, post your comments below. Let me know what you think about that. Throw a like on the video, subscribe, do all the stuff. Appreciate you all. We're growing every day. We got content coming every day now. I know it's crazy. The timeline we're living in. I'm actually putting out content every single day. But anyway, hope y'all have a great day. Be safe, be good to each other, keep rocking, and I will catch you all in the next video. Take care.